origins and the makor, the first beginnings of Selichos that we start to say before Yomim Noroyim is revealed to us by Chazal. It's a Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, Daf Yud Zayin Amud Beis, reveals a little bit of the secret to what we're about to do tonight. So Be'ezus Hashem, if we understand a little bit of what we're doing and why we're doing it and what we can accomplish, Efsha will be Zoicha this year. The Gemara tells us on the pasuk in Shemois Lamed Daled, Vayavo Hashem al ponav vayikra Hashem Hashem. On that, Chazal tells us the following. Melamed, it teaches us, Shenis'atei v'kadosh baruch hu k'shliach tzibur v'hereloi leMoshe seide tefillah Omar loi kol zman sheYisrael choitin ayase lefonai k'seide hazeh va'ani moichal lohem. Zukt Chazal in the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, based on the psukim that we just read, that if we do aveiros and we do things that perhaps we're not meant to be doing, there's one secret, there's one master key that will help you. And that's what we're about to do tonight. The Seder of Selichos is something that already started many, many years ago. The Yud Gimel Midas, the koyach of the Yud Gimel Midas, that maybe we'll mention in a few minutes. One of the lines that we say during Selichos, Loi b'chesed v'loi b'masim ba'onu lefanecha. Rabbeinu Shalom, we're not coming to you with maisim, with chesed. We don't hold ourselves to be anyone or anything. We've not accomplished anything. We're banging on your door as a poor person with nothing. Rabbeinu Shalom, we have nothing. We're not coming with anything in advance. We don't hold ourselves that we're roaring, that we're fitting to get anything, but we're begging the Rabbeinu Shalom tonight. And from now, Rosh Hashanah, Aseret Yemei Tshuva, Erev Yom Kippur, Ni'ilah, and then continuing through Sukkos, Hoshana Rabbah, and Simchas Torah. You know, imagine a person takes out a loan, $12 million, and he says, don't worry, I'm going to give you a monthly payment, an installment of $1 million every single month. I'll give you 12 checks to pay back for the $12 million. At the end of the year, the borrower says, you know those checks that I gave you, do me a favor, could you give me another $12 million? Chutzpah. That's what you're asking for. We very much do the same thing. We spoke about this a little bit in the Shmuz of Elul. We spend our whole year doing things that perhaps we shouldn't be doing. And then we come to Yomim Noroyim, and we beg, Rabbeinu Shalom, give us, and we have a list, a ganze list of what we want, what we need, what we have to have. We're just asking again and again. Pnei Menachem, Ger Rebbe, writes how interesting it is that the Rambam dedicated an entire section called Hilchos Tshuva. The Rambam has an entire section called Hilchos Tshuva. So the Pnei Menachem, interesting. The Shulchan Aruch doesn't have a whole section called Hilchos Tshuva. But there are certain chalakim in Shulchan Aruch, for example, Hilchos Yom Kippurim, that we can sort of derive some of the halachos of Tshuva. Pnei Menachem points out one thing. There's a Ramah in Hilchos Yom Kippur, where the Ramah brings Rabbeinu Yoina, and he says, what's the reason why there's a higher price that's required for a korban osham? A korban osham is when a person possibly did an aveira, possibly did something wrong. He brings a korban osham. It's a higher price than a korban chatos. A korban chatos, he for sure did an aveira. That's a lower price, it's much cheaper. Ask the Pnei Menachem, what's pshat? Why is it you would have thought that on a vaday aveira, it's going to cost a lot of money? A possible Aveira be cheaper, but it's mamish faket. It's the other way around. You seem to be in this Psak in Halach and Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah, brings on the Beni Yoino, that a korban osham, which is on a suffix, maybe I did Aveira, maybe I didn't, costs more money than a korban chatos, which is a vadai. Zuk the Pnei Menachem. The pshat is that when a person knows he did an Aveira, he knows he did something wrong, he feels bad. He knows he shouldn't have done what he did. He knows he shouldn't have said it. He knows he shouldn't have looked. He knows he shouldn't have done it. He knows. He feels bad. Avadai Aveira, he knows. When you have a Sophic Aveira, I don't know if I did it, it was probably okay. You come up with a million excuses. Memela, that's why they require the persons of the Pnei Menachem a higher price on a korban osham. Why? So that you'll feel bad. You'll take it seriously. You'll realize it's a real thing. You know, the Rabbeinu Shel Olam is waiting for us. Tonight, Motzei Shabbos, after a Shabbos Kodesh, a Yiddish B'Simcha, we start the Seder of Selichos, which lasts all the way until Ne'ilah. Again and again, again and again, the Yud Gimel Midas will be saying it again and again, all the way until Ne'ilah. When I promise you, the walls of this Beis HaMedrash, I have witnessed myself, and I've felt it myself, the walls of the Beis Medrash are shaking by Ne'ilah. But you have to build up. You have to start somewhere. Tonight, we're starting the Seder of Tshuva, even though Lemaisa it started Avada the whole year, V'shchodesh Elul, throughout Elul. But like now, this is it. It's coming closer, Rabbi Isai. We're just over a week before Rosh Hashanah. This is the time of Tshuva. This is the time where we're meant to dig deep into ourselves and see where we're really holding. But the Rabbeinu Shalom helps us. The Rabbeinu Shalom, you're not alone. Don't think for a moment that you're alone over here. The Rabbeinu Shalom is helping you. He's holding your hand throughout the process. We say in Ne'ilah, Ato noisin yad lepoishim. You, Rabbeinu Shalom, you offer your hand out lepoishim. These are people that do Aveiros b'dafka, willingly. They know it's an Aveira. They know it's wrong. They do it anyway. And yet the Rabbeinu Shalom, we say Ne'ilah, holds out his hands and helps us, assists us. How much more so when we don't do things willingly? Yitzhara, what do you want? We're living in times that we're just surrounded by so much. It's so difficult for us. Rabbeinu Shalom, what do you want from us? You put us in this generation. You gave us the challenges. But guess what? The Rabbeinu Shalom knows. He understands. And if Kaviyachol, the Rabbeinu Shalom, is putting out his hand for a poishim, but people that bedafka do Aveiros, how much more so? The Rabbeinu Shalom helps us as well. We all have something that we have to work on. We all have something that we have to try and perhaps fix. The Chidush Harim, when he was asked the Kasha, what should a Yid work on? What should I do? It's Selichos. I need to do something. The Chidush Harim said, look for something that's very hard for you. Look for something that's really difficult, that's hard. It's really hard for me not to speak Lashon Hara. It's hard for me not to press what I know I shouldn't be pressing on the phone, on the computer. It's hard for me not to listen, not to go, not to do. I know what's hard for me. Every single person, the Gemara says in Yuma, Leiv Yodei and Moras Nafshay, everybody knows themselves. Everybody knows what they need to work on, what they need to improve on. Tonight's the night. Tonight we start. Don't wait till Ne'ilah. Don't wait until Kol Nidre even. Don't wait until Sarisei Tshuva. Don't even wait till Rosh Hashanah. Start now. Go into the year. Have the end of the year being so uplifted, so good, that the Rabbeinu Shalom will give us on Rosh Hashanah, Gvaldige Din Be'ezah Hashem B'siyata D'Shmaya. But we have to start now. Tonight's the night when we start. The Maharal writes, Moedik Maharal. The Maharal says in the Sivat Tshuva, he brings the Lashon of Tshuva. Is Lashon of the root, is Lashon of Shav, which means to return. When someone is Chayze B'Tshuva, he's essentially, says the Maharal, returning to himself. That's what he's actually doing. Because a person, as we know, the Tanya tells us amongst others, every year there's a chelek and a kami mal mamish, or a piece of the Rabbeinu Shalom. We have a piece of Hashem inside us. We were created, but Salam Elokim. And therefore, when we perhaps did what we know we shouldn't have done, and we did an Aveira, it wasn't us. Nichnas, says the Gemara in Soita, ruach shtus, stam shtusim. We got sidetracked. We got involved with things that perhaps we shouldn't. We got distracted through life. We forgot who we are. We forgot about our beautiful neshama that illuminates from one side of the world to the other side of the world. That's our neshama that illuminates inside us. We forgot about it. We forgot about Elakis. We forgot about that chelik and akam imal mamish, that little piece of the Rabbeinu Shalom that's in us. And we ran after the taivas of our guf. The neshama, for the neshama to do an aveira, it's bechina misa. Explains the Maral, he just can't connect to the guf. The pasuk says, "Va'atem adveikim b'Hashem Elokeichem, chayim kulchem hayoim." Says the Maral, what does that mean? When a person is dovek to the Rabbeinu Shalom, when a person is dovek to Hashem, he's connected to the Rabbeinu Shalom. He's chayim, he's alive, he's real, he's emes. But when he does an avera, he loses that dveikus, he loses that connection. So Mimela, he simply cannot be dovek to his neshama. It's bechina misa. When a person is maharer b'tshuva, and perhaps tonight, every single one of us, b'siyata d'shmaya, will be zoichet to be maharer tshuva at some point from now until the end, including the dancing at the end. Forget, maybe even more, we'll speak about that in a few minutes. Maharer tshuva will think, Rabbeinu Shalom, I know I didn't do right. I know I should have done better. I promised you last year that I would have been better. Say now, I'm holding in the same place. But you know what? This year I'm going to try. This year's going to be different. You're going to see. When a person does that, you're coming back to yourself. You're coming back to who you really are. Your real neshama, your emes. That which you didn't realize, that's the ani, that's who you actually are. That's Pshat in Chazal and the Yalkut Shmoini. Yisrael, Afal Pi Shechot Yisrael, even if a Yid doesn't have Eir, it's still a Yid. What does that mean? That means because the chelik of Yisrael inside you, that chelik and akam imal, that beautiful neshama, that glistening, polished, stunning neshama that the Rabbeinu Shalom gave us, that came from Kisei HaKavod that every one of us has. It got a little bit dirty, got a little bit covered. We can reveal it tonight. We can peel a layer off tonight, Be'ezus Hashem. That's what tonight is. That's what we're doing. That's the purpose. You know, if I would ask someone, what's better? A tzaddik gomo, someone that never did an aveira in his life. The guy's a tzaddik gomo, he's unbelievable. Or maybe a bal tshuva. Which one is better? So on the first glance, a person would say, a tzaddik gomo. There's no shayla, a tzaddik gomo is gavaldik, he never did an aveira his whole life. Chazal seem to tell us differently. Chazal tell us, Brachos Lamedalet, Mokim Shebali Tshuva Oimdim, Tzadikim Gemurim Einam Oimdin, a place that a Bal Tshuva stands when he's Maharer B'Tshuva and he thinks, Rabbeinu Shalom, I didn't do what I was meant to. I did the wrong thing. But now I'm going to be better. You're going to see this year is going to be Gavaldik. The place that you stand, and Tzadik Gomer can't stand. We have to understand what that means. You can't do an Aveira with this in mind, but if you already did an Aveira, think about this. Your tshuva puts you in a better place than a tzaddik gomer. That's what tonight is. That's what we're doing. A few weeks ago we learned about a Nara Marosa that is put to death. Why is the Nara Marosa put to death, says the Torah? Al dvar shaloi tza'aka, because she could have cried and she didn't. Says the Rebbe Rabbinim Epshischa, explains a moedik yesod on this. He says that the most important complaint against a person who didn't succeed in Yiddishkeit, he didn't make it. You know what the greatest complaint is? Why didn't you cry? Why didn't you beg? Why didn't you daven? That's what we're doing tonight. We're starting the process of tshuva. We're starting the process of begging of that dveikus, of that tshuva, shov, of the moral of getting back to ourselves. Interesting lashon of Chazal. Haba l'tar Messiah Nosai. Haba l'tar, a person comes to Matar Messiah Nosai. They help him. It doesn't say ba. It doesn't say l'tar. It says haba. If a person just comes, all you need to do is show up, and you're here. You're all here. You're here for that purpose. You're here for that reason. You're all yoitza. Haba l'tar. Now the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to be Messiah, so we're all going to have help from the Rebbeinu Shalom because we already tried. We'll finish at least part one of what I wanted to say. Just with one Maisa. There's a Mordecai Sefer called Ale Merois. In Ale Merois, Rav Yeshua Moshe Aronson brings one of the saddest questions that came his way during World War II. One of the most gefährliche, sad, zerbrochene kashas that he got throughout the whole war. Ready for this question? There was a Rav, and the Nazis, Yamach Shemam, stormed into his home. They ripped the mezuzah off of the doorpost. And as we know, nothing gave the Nazis more pleasure than disgracing anything that had connection to Yiddishkeit. And even better, if we can get a Yid to disgrace it, that's even better. They took the mezuzah off. They took out the cloth, the scroll inside the casing of the mezuzah. They gave it to the Rav, and they said, in front of his family, his children, his wife was all there, and they said, here, please tear it into shreds. Now you can imagine, if you're faced with such a thing, absolutely not. Even the lowest of the low wouldn't do such a thing. Here's a Rav. He said, absolutely not. And they started beating him and beating him and beating him. And blood was going everywhere. The children were screaming. It was terrible. And they said again, rip it into shreds. And he said, no, I'm not doing it. Please, leave me. Beating him and beating him. Until eventually he couldn't take it. He just couldn't take the pain. He couldn't take the sorrow. He was watching his children watch him. He couldn't take it. He did something that he never could have imagined that he would have done. And he took the cloth and he started ripping it into shreds. And it started falling on the floor there. And they were satisfied. The Nazis in Shemam were happy with what they saw, and they stormed off. When this Rav pulled himself together and witnessed what he just saw, he couldn't believe it. He ripped his clothing and he sat on the floor as if he was sitting shiva. And he came to ask the kasha. He said, I'm giving up my rabbonis. I can't be a Rav. How could a Rav do such a thing? This was the saddest question that he got during World War II. Rabbi said, we've fallen. We've fallen tremendously. We've ripped the shreds. Chmana litzlan. We've done so much this year that we know we shouldn't have done. But you know what? Tonight's the night where we can get up and we can declare to the Rebbeinu Shalom, this year is going to be different. Help me. Ask the Rebbeinu Shalom. Slichas is all about asking the Rebbeinu Shalom for help. And Be'ezus Hashem, if we do our part, Haba l'tar, the Rebbeinu Shalom Messiah so will be Zoicha b'siyata d'shmaya to a gewaltige din.